Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight. Michael and everybody, thanks so much. Before I really get into this, the first thing I just want to say real quickly, print is not dead. It's not. Even in our world currently today, with the proliferation of displays and tech and all of the digital arts that we all present about and talk about all the time, and all the things that are very important to us, print is also important. And look over here. We have all these beautiful different books, passion books. We have Newton's Sumo over there as well. And tonight I'm going to talk a little bit. Again, Michael said I was here a month ago, and my daughter Claire and I were here, and we were talking with Jeremy, one of the presenters, about storytelling and how important storytelling is. And so we were driving home, and I said I would really be interested in this, and my daughter's like, well, we should have this conversation about storytelling and type and telling these stories. But why is it that I am up here and maybe not one of the other people out there? And I do encourage you to perhaps get up here in the future and take that risk like our friend just did. And so a little bit about me. My name is Devon Adams. I've been an educator in the Valley for 27 years. I've been a photographer my entire life. I've always been around photography. I mean, even to the point where I was 2 years old, and there's a photo floating around somewhere in my family where my mom was out, we were camping in the Rocky Mountains, and my mom was running around taking pictures of the experience. We were out there for a whole month. And so I had this picture somewhere, I couldn't find it, where I'm holding up a rock covered in dust and dirt because I've been in the Rockies for a month, living in a tent, and bleached blonde hair, and I had this rock up to my face pretending it was a camera. And so I've been in photography for my entire life. And so as an educator, I taught English. I still teach, I adjunct, that's why I take classes in design, because they're practically free to me and I love learning about this stuff. But I've been teaching in the Maricopa County Community College District for 20 years, and I've been teaching in high school in the East Valley for 27 years. So I've been doing this this is just my passion. I've been a professional photographer for 13 years, and I'm just never going to stop with this stuff. My first yearbook that I was on staff, it was 1989, and no, I was not the teacher. I was actually a freshman in high school, and I walked in because I've always been a visual artist. I've always been a writer. And I walked into the staff, and Michael and I were talking about this last week. Back in the day, we developed the film black and white photos, and then we used the grease pencils to crop out the photos. I don't know if anybody else was on the staff back in the day. My first book, where I was the advisor, I just finished student teaching in '99. Administrator comes to me and says, hey, ever do a yearbook? We need an advisor right now. Well, you know that when you're trying to get a job right out of college, you say yes to everything no matter what, and then you go figure it out. So that's what I did. I have pretty much been a full-time yearbook advisor since 2005, and prior to that, off and on, since '99. So why yearbook? Why do we care about yearbook? I don't know how your yearbook experiences went when you were in school, but I remember some yearbooks were like memory books. You have all the little people doing peace signs in the 70s, some in the 80s, who knows, different gestures, different generations. And then you have other books that are quite a bit more robust. And I don't think that a lot of people really understand exactly what goes into a yearbook. True, powerful yearbook messages and the stories that we tell in yearbook. I'm currently in East Valley High School, public high school. We have approximately 2,300 students. The book that we published is approximately 280 pages, give or take, depending on the year. I have a staff of 24 to 27 students, 4 of whom are back there, including the editor-in-chief and art director. And we create a yearbook that has one singular voice for the entire school, and that's important to us. So the process, and a lot of people don't really understand the process of the yearbook. They think we start beginning of the school year, we work in it all year, here and there, it's fun, people run around, we make a lot of phone calls, we annoy a lot of teachers, sorry everyone. And so what we're looking at doing with this is the beginning, if we start in the springtime, okay? And in the springtime, we start talking about next year's book. This is 14 months before the book comes out. And so we go through and we start talking about it, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do, what's the vibe of the year, what is the theme of the year. if you have a yearbook out there that maybe you went to that school and the theme was something like your journey and then you put a parenthesis around OUR, don't do that. 2020 vision, don't do that, okay? We're coming up on our 20th anniversary book next year. It's going to be great. But in the summertime, we spend time, we go to Yearbook camp in Colorado, and it's great. It's a week where we really get in a focus. What is the design of the book? What is the typeface of the book? What are the colors of the book? What do we want to say in the book? And in the fall, we start working on pages. We could draft pages, and we bring an expert in, and she sits down, and we put pages up all over our whiteboard, and she tells us why they all suck, and we should start changing everything. And then we punt. So, Yearbook is all about storytelling. It's all about telling the story of the book and figuring out ways to design the book for that story. So what I'm going to delineate a little bit here today is I'm going to talk about our last 5 books. And I'm just going to hint at this book coming up. Right after COVID, you know, everybody pivoted, the world changed, community, culture, education changed. And so we put out a book, and the tagline for our theme was Changing Perspective. And it was all about, what are we going to do now? What's coming up? And, you know, everybody was shocked because of the pandemic and everything. So we put out Changing Perspective. And then we moved on from there. We're going to talk a little bit about those different books and kind of how we use typeface as well as other design elements to get across whatever the message of the year might be. So that year we used Urbano, and it's very sans serif, very kind of stable font. It has a lot of structure to it, but we paired it with a font called Sunday Best that you can see behind me in the primary red cover title there, as well as on the spine. The left vertical, that's the spine of the book, okay, just so you know what we're looking at here. And the adjectives and tones of that typeface were very hopeful, very balanced, intentional, yet playful. We had a hope for the future, but we weren't sure what that hope was yet because we were just coming out of a pandemic. A lot of people were still at home. A lot of people were still scared. A lot of people were very safe like me. And then, George Floyd is murdered. And we're at the end of the year, and all of a sudden, everything culturally shifts, especially when it comes to human rights in the US as well as around the world. And we people here in this kind of community, we really need to start taking a look at our fellow citizens, the people that we care about in our schools and our communities. What we decided at that point in time is, 1, where are we in this moment and what's happening right now? 2, we use function, just function. And we use all the different weights in function because what we were trying to do is we were trying to create a unification, a unity within the variation of the font weights themselves, rather than trying to pair it with something to do some sort of contrast or tell some sort of story. We want to be right here, right now, in this moment. And if you see this cover, and if you were to see the book itself, you will see there are a lot of photos and stories that tell the stories of women. I mean, you look at my dominant picture of 3 girls running through the rain the first day of school. That never happens, and it happened that year. As well as a lot of BIPOC people and community members, okay? In my yearbooks, I always look at the entire community and not just one portion of the community. And there's always those little nods to taking care of people and supporting people. So then, the next book, we were sitting around one day, my yearbook rep and I, and a couple students, editors and such, and we're saying, okay, what's gonna come next? And so what we did, one of the things that we like to do is we like to make sure that we contrast books. Not every year needs to look the same, not every year will look the same. So this is very different from the last book. Our school colors are red and black, so occasionally we go back to that, and we did this here. As most artists, love music. One of my favorite artists, singer, songwriter, Grace Slick. Okay, started Jefferson Airplane, pretty much ended her career Starship. She retired in the, about 94, 95. And she was actually playing a concert, and it was a day before I was going home from college, and I'm like, I should go home a day early and go, and I didn't, and then she announced her retirement within a few months. But one of the songs that I love of Starship is Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. So I went to that song And I started looking at the lyrics, and my publishing rep was like, be careful, we don't want to get sued. And so we found, there's one line in there, what did they know? And so we took that and we're like, what do people know about our school? What do they think they know? What is the truth of what really happens? Okay? So we took Jaren Hand, which is, you know, a very kind of, I don't know, raw, kind of decorative script, and we just kind of wanted to kind of almost shove it in your face a bit, and we paired that with the kind of the authority of News Gothic and kind of that stability and kind of looking at that contrast between the two fonts. This book was the first book where I went to Yearbook Camp in Colorado. It was very well received. Everybody seemed to really like this book. And then we get to this one. And what we did with this book and with this font is we used Unitas, which is very modular type. It's very stackable. It's very architectural. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to look at the community within our schools. It's so me, individuals in the school. It's so you. It's so me. It's so you. Small groups, sports teams, clubs, small groups of people doing important things in the schools, and then it's so us, the whole community in general. And we used it in a very way in which we kind of stacked it and made a modular structure out of the book and let that book tell the story. I don't think the community was ready for this book. They really weren't. It's a very mature design to the book. In my opinion, a lot of students really didn't resonate. They were just kind of like, I don't understand this book. And I think maybe it kind of went over their heads a bit, okay? So, then we come to this. And yes, there's 2 color covers up there. And that was a crowd pleaser. A lot of people were like, wait, we got 2 different colors? And it was funny because when we handed out the book, we disseminated it at the beginning of May each year. And people were like, I want the orange one. No, I want the pink one. I want the orange one. And I have a small anecdote about that because as we were preparing for this book and sitting down and really talking about that, we were trying to figure out what was our pretty, what was our colors, what we were doing with the book. And so a colleague of mine at the time was sitting in the room, and he had a hat on with a patch on the front of the hat. And I don't know if you are familiar with the work of the graphic designer Aaron Draplin out of Portland. Fantastic guy, look him up. But he created that patch, and it was a stack of bats. And inside that stack of bats in the black was highlights of that pink and that orange. And one of the students might even be in the room with like, there's our colors, and that became our color palette. But we needed, and we were talking about like the punk aesthetic, we were talking about the DIY aspects of punk and building zines and things in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s. And so we wanted something that was kind of really edgy, and so we picked permanent marker as the dominant font, but then we paired it with Lato. And what I like about Lato is I'm just a stickler for the sans serifs. I really don't like serifs. And I forced myself to use one this year. I'll get to that in a moment. But it also has that softness to it. So we took that, and it was very contrasting, the way that we used these fonts. This book, the reception of this book so far has been overwhelmingly positive. Some of the people who judge the books at the top level, because I don't know if you know this, but Yearbook has what essentially is the Academy Awards or Super Bowl of yearbooks too. We have the Columbia State Press Awards. We have the National Scholastic Press Awards, okay, for the yearbook. It's a very upper echelon of yearbooks, and the judges for that have seen this book. And they say, you need to submit this book. You need to submit this for everything. And we won't know till springtime, but you know, universe willing, hopefully we get some of those accolades. And we love this book. It's expressive, it's energetic. You know, we have that clean Lato, and then we have that edgy, this rest can wait. We're here right now, we're here in this moment, like that Here in the Moment book years ago, but it's more about, slow down. We're here now, let's work on what we're doing here. You know, these kids are like halfway out the door, senioritis and everything. We're like, no, let's pause for a second, because when you get out there, it's a whole different world. And so this book is up for lots of awards. This book just took home the State Award for Best of Show at the Arizona Scholastic Press Association, which is our state conference. And we'll see how it goes in the springtime when we go to the National High School Journalism Conference in Minneapolis. So we'll see. Now, I don't have anything for this next book, because it's always under wraps, it's always a secret until it comes out, because we want it to be that big reveal. But I will tell you this about the typeface. What we did this year is we paired a Braille display, which is a serif font, big, it's fat, with Barlow, and a condensed Barlow with several different weights to it. And we've been working on this book non-stop. You can ask the staff members in the back of the room about how hard they have been working and how proud I am of the work they're doing. So our yearbooks are a visual capsule. I mean, I don't know about you, but I still have my high school books. Even the one that was in a flood, and even the one where my house burned down, the book still made, most of the book made it out of there. And so we still have those. I mean, I remember reading my mom's yearbook from when she was in high school a long time ago, and seeing those pictures and seeing that data and everything. When you create yearbooks and when you create the design of the yearbook and we call it pretty of the yearbook, that's what a friend of mine says. It's really all about balancing between the typeface, the colors, the theme package, and what you're trying to say and what you're trying to accomplish. So not only am I open for questions, but my question to you is, what are the letter forms and what are the typefaces that tell your story and the stories that you're trying to convey to the world around you? Thank you.